Hey guys, Ricky Simigli over here with my buddy Rolly, and today we're going to be talking about reverse triangle. Reverse triangle is, to me, it's an awesome submission, and it's something that I've seen throughout my career, but I didn't really understand how to finish it. And so I would never kind of go in that direction. So I actually want to start the videos with the finishing mechanics, and then we can start going into the setups. But there's a lot of finishing mechanics that if you ignore and you get to that point and you don't know how to finish, you just pretty much bail out and look for something else. So to understand it will really help out. So hopefully we can get through that today. So I'm gonna have my partner here. I'm gonna set up the reverse triangle in a way that I normally wouldn't right now, just so that we can get there, so we can study the finishing parts. Then we'll start talking about setup. So a good easy way to get there is first starting in an arm bar position, hooking with my right arm or wherever I am. Yeah, I always say that the arm closer to the hip is my south arm. So I'm hooking with my south arm, and I'm just gonna lean to my left side because it's important that I'm leaning on a hip, because I'm always trying to make sure that I'm applying pressure towards his elbow opening, if that makes sense. So the closer his elbow is to his rib cage, the stronger his fight's gonna be. So it's really a battle of trying to get his elbow separated from his rib cage. So I'm always leaning north. I'm leaning towards his head. I always say his head is north. So I'm leaning this way so that I can open up his elbow. My knees are following, everything's staying pinched. And now pretty much I'm gonna have my partner help me out here, and he's just gonna lift his head. So he's gonna lift his head, and I'm just gonna bring my Achilles over his shoulder over here. Eventually, when we do an adjustment at the end, my calf is gonna end up in front, and we'll talk about that in a second. But a lot of times when we're setting up the reverse triangle, this is actually the first connection we make before we even make the adjustment. So I'm bringing my Achilles over the shoulder, pretty much with the direction to keep him pinned down as I'm applying pressure. And now we can just bring our foot over to the other side. We can grab our shin for now, and then we can shift our hip. And we're shifting around his head. I feel like a lot of times when people do this, they're kind of shifting and they're moving the partner a little bit while they're doing this. But I'm trying to make sure that both my partner's shoulder blades are touching the floor. If his back is off the ground, for example, if I close the reverse triangle, his shoulder's in here, this doesn't work. So I'm always trying to keep his shoulders on the floor, shifting around his neck, and then I'm bringing my calf pretty much right in front of the throat, and then I'm gonna be closing the triangle over here. I'm loosening up the triangle a lot so that we can continue talking here. Another thing I do find very important to mention is that quarter guard seems to be the biggest problem whenever I try to actually close the reverse triangle. So not even closing it. If I close, great, but even if I close and he grabs the quarter guard, there's just something that quarter guard does that opens up space for him to get out. And it's very hard to actually finish. He doesn't allow you to get the angles necessary to finish if he closes his quarter. So I'm always being kind of mindful of that. I'm either tracing his body with my foot. If I see that he's picking his hips up, if you're pushing on the floor, for example, and your hips come up, I know his feet are busy, so I can bring it over. But I am definitely paying attention to the idea that he can actually get quarter and find opportunities to escape. So once we do get this foot across and we do that adjustment, and I bring my shin as close as I can to his neck, or my calf rather, I close the triangle while the whole time I'm leaning, trying to keep that pressure on his shoulder with his elbow away from his core. And then once I get to this point, now I want to start looking to switch my hook. So I don't, I went as far as I can with this one. So from here, he's going to be holding on. Some people are really stubborn about that grip. So as he's holding on, now I'm going to be switching my hook, but I'm going to make sure that instead of going towards the elbow, like where my arm is right now, I'm going to hook towards the wrist. So I'm going to switch my hook towards the wrist, elbow deep, and then I can take my first arm out, and now I can hook my own wrist. And now I'm completely connected to the end of his extremity. This is about as far as I can pull back, so the rest happens with my hips. So I drive my hips, and then it breaks the grip, and now again, I'm keeping everything with me, extending as far as I can, and then I'm looking to bring my hips forward to actually do the finish. Imagine that, if I bring my hips up like this, but if I stay connected to the arm and then I start driving my hips, we look for the arm bar like that. And it's interesting because we're talking about reverse triangle, but I'm almost kind of talking about the position itself. Sometimes we will get the triangle finish, which is a choke, but a lot of times I actually set up shoulder locks and arm locks or arm bars from the reverse triangle. And then sometimes I get the chokes, but a lot of times I see the opportunity to attack the arm is more present. So cool.